Joining me right now, former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon. Steve, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Maria.
Before we get into your predictions, I want to run a soundbite of what you told us the last time you were with us, zeroing in on those swing states. Take a listen.
You see it in Northeast Pennsylvania. You see it in heavily Catholic Wisconsin, working class whites plus African-American males, Hispanic. I think Steve Cortez is right. We're going to get north of 40%. Biden peaked too early. Trump is surging. This is going to be a horse race all the way down to the end.
Steve, how are you feeling today with the day arriving and people going to the polls right now?
I think that all came true. I think the focus is going to be in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I think Northeast Pennsylvania is going to drive this. I think Donald Trump's going to win Northeast Pennsylvania, win it big, and going to be win re-election. The Democrats have a huge problem. All this massive early voting, all the vote by mail, what they've done is just cannibalized game day. They have to turn out today low propensity and sporadic voters when they really don't have a great physical get out the vote operation. President Trump, the deplorables have to represent today in a massive turnout. If they turn out like it's been projected and like we've done data analytics on for the game day vote, President Trump is going to win re-election tonight.
Steve, do you believe he will declare victory tonight? A lot of questions about not knowing what we're going to see. We've been talking about the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, who yesterday tweeted out that Trump will lose. This is coming from the AG of Pennsylvania. I tweeted out after that saying, what does he know that we don't know? Will it be a victory tonight for President Trump?
President Trump has a great saying, no games. And the Attorney General, this partisan hack Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania should recuse himself from anything doing with this going forward. He's on MSNBC nonstop as a partisan hack. He's already done voter suppression. This is the most major voter suppression we've seen where he says, hey, I already know the outcome of this. I just got to get in there and count the votes that we want to count. So this is outrageous to me. President Trump, you know, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper have opinions. President Trump is a fact. And tonight, I think for the good of the nation, he has to set the narrative framework. And I think he has to do it from the White House between 10 and 11 o'clock. He will be up on the way to victory. And I think he has to set the framework for what's going to happen in the days ahead. Otherwise, you're going to have the Democratic Party with a lawfare, with social media and their mainstream media, Praetorian Guard of Biden, and also street protests, which they're actively promoting. Rachel Maddow last night, the only things she had on her show were either lawyers, Attorney General Shapiro, and she had she had the 800 number how to join protests to put pressure on the president. President has to come out tonight. This is not the red mirage of what Hawkfish says and the Bloomberg guys. Tonight's going to be the bold red predicate, the predicate where his ultimate victory will come from. He has to lay it out for the nation, how he's won game day, how he's won these major states like Ohio, how he's ahead into the rest of the country, and set the framework of how this is going to go forward. We can't let this devolve into the chaos of what the Democratic Party wants. And this is why I think President Trump has to be very bold tonight, very tough, very firm, and lay out the narrative framework of what's happening and provide the narrative engine of how we go forward.
But, I mean, look, we had Robert Cahaly on yesterday from Trafalgar Group, who's, you know, predicting a President Trump win. But he said they need to see a landslide in Pennsylvania because there will be so much fraud in Pennsylvania alone. Do you think that the president's team has the police in place, the policing of this in place, that, in fact, you will be able to indicate and identify wrongdoing or hanky-panky with these ballots?
First off, the first thing today is Bill Stepien is one of the best ground games in the world. He and Jason Miller, et cetera, they're going to have the ground game, physical ground game to get the vote out, which is important, number one. Then we have people like Mike Roman. They have a terrific team. President Trump's got a top quality team of people who are going to be on top of this. President Trump is not going to allow games to happen here. He is not going to have, you know, what he's done is respect the American people by actually running a campaign and going out to the small towns and hamlets throughout the country to make his case to the American people. You see the energy he's had? He is not prepared, and his followers are not prepared to have this stolen by the shenanigans and games they want to play in the legal side of this, what they want to do in street protests, and what they want to do in social media to try to shut the president and his followers down. We're not going to back off, and we're not going to allow this to be stolen in the canvassing rooms. Mike Roman and the team have a top quality team that are contest. Any ballot that can be certified must be counted. It must be counted. We're a democracy. Okay, but the ballot has to be certified, and it has to play by the exact rules and regulation that exist. Not that guys like Shapiro want to make up. To me, it's outrageous. The voter suppression that's already started by the Democratic Party. Shapiro's a hack. He should recuse himself, or I think the president's lawyers ought to go into court today and force him off this, because he's already shown that he's putting his thumb on the scale to try to steal Pennsylvania. And as Pennsylvania goes, so goes the country.
So let me ask you about the road to get to victory. You say as Pennsylvania goes, so goes the country. What about the other states like Florida, Georgia? What are you expecting in North Carolina? Are there, I mean, it's not all just about Pennsylvania. Can the president win without Pennsylvania?
He's good. Listen, this is tough but doable. Number one, early in the evening, we're going to know Ohio, right, which Biden had a chance to shut the president down and failed to do that. President got a second life in the last 3.5 weeks since the hard drive from hell came out, and Biden basically put a lid. He didn't want to address it. He went underground. That 10 days was key. The president got momentum. He's driving now to a surge. In Florida, we already see that President Trump get a historic amount of the Hispanic vote. We also are starting to see, I think, African-American vote really start to support the president, and numbers are going to be far higher than we had in 2016. So I think Ohio and Florida become the foundational elements early in the evening. Then you hold Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. Trump supporters have to understand you've got to get out today, because those three states are going to be tough, but President Trump will hold them. I don't believe today they're going to be big margins, but he will hold them. And then that leaves really Pennsylvania to make the final strike for victory. In Northeast Pennsylvania and Western Pennsylvania are going to be key. Northeast Pennsylvania, Scranton. It's the reason Joe Biden was selected by the Democratic Party. President Trump is beloved up there. Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, I think, will be the centerpiece of this, and I believe President Trump will win Pennsylvania. I also think he'll win heavily Catholic Wisconsin. My number's 289.
Okay, 289 electoral votes, you're saying? You know, it's interesting to see what's going on in Pennsylvania, particularly with the oil and gas business. Joe Biden really hurt himself at the debate, saying that he's going to transition out of the oil business. That's something that certainly resonates. And you mentioned black voters and Hispanic voters. We've been speaking with a lot of them in the last several weeks. How strong will the support be, do you think, in the African-American community for this president? You know, Herschel Walker came on the show this weekend and said it could be well above 20%, which would be a big number, obviously, relative to what we've seen in history.
It's Herschel Walker, but it's also people like Cube. It's people like Lil Wayne. It's all these new African American males that understand economic nationalism. They understand President Trump's populist approach, and they're listening to this, and it's starting to resonate. I think he's going to do surprisingly well among African American males. I think he's going to do surprisingly well among Hispanic males. I know the Democratic Party is already freaked out about what's happening in Miami-Dade. The president, I think, that message is resonating across the board. I think you also see it resonate in Arizona. Yeah. So I believe that I think this new coalition around populism and economic nationalism, you're seeing in these massive rallies. You're seeing working class America and middle-class America rally around to stop the neoliberal, neocon policies of really Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. This has been rejected. This is pure globalist. This is being rejected by the American people, and that is why President Trump, he's a game day player. This is game day. This is going to be the game day vote. Tonight he's going to go in, and he's not going to let this be stolen by a bunch of slick lawyers and a bunch of media and the social media oligarchs in Silicon Valley, slick lawyers in the media, and also the street protests. He is not going to back down 1 inch. And if they think they are, they're sadly mistaken. President Trump's going to make bold statements. He's going to have a great day, set a bold red predicate, frame it for the nation tonight, and then drive to an ultimate victory.
And then, of course, you mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop from hell, this news coming out right as people were going to vote in early voting, that Hunter Biden was doing these million-dollar deals with companies across the world. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham joined me this weekend, talked about holding people accountable. He said, questioned why the FBI has not done anything to crack down on government corruption with the Bidens and beyond. Here's Senator Graham from Sunday Watch. What are you going to do to make sure to keep accountability? We still haven't seen any news from John Durham's investigation after the coup that failed to take President Trump down in 2016. Now we've got the Hunter Biden story, the FBI sitting on the laptop for a year, not telling anybody about it, even as they impeached President Trump for Ukraine news. What are you going to do, Senator Lindsey Graham, in terms of holding people accountable? Will you subpoena Hunter Biden? Bottom line.
Well, the Homeland, that is Ron Johnson. I've got McCabe coming in November the 10th. I've got the social media CEOs coming in November the 17th. But I'm going to have a hearing with the FBI about why did you sit on the laptop so long. What you see from the business partner of Hunter Biden is corruption at a industrial scale, influence peddling. What have you learned through our time together? That it was Hillary Clinton in July trying to cook up a plan to link Trump to Russia in 2016. In September of 2016, she tried to attach Trump to Russia to deal with her email problem to deflect. We've learned there was Russian collusion, but it was between the Clinton campaign and it was between Russia. Clinton in Russia, not Trump in Russia. We learned that Crossfire Hurricane was the most corrupt investigation maybe in the history of the FBI. Durham is all over this. After the election, you're going to get a report, and I'll be shocked if people are not indicted.
Steve Bannon, I do think this story is resonating finally with people because there's been this massive cover-up over covering up wrongdoing, whether it's the media, inside government, the deep state, and, of course, the FBI sitting on the laptop for a year.
FBI director should be fired tonight, FBI Director Wray, immediately. They should announce a special prosecutor to go after it. This is not about corruption. This is about compromise. This was done with the worst companies of the Chinese Communist Party. This was Chinese Communist Party coming in and buying access and control of Joe Biden. You need a special prosecutor. You need indictments. This has got to be. The American people need to know what went on for national security.
Yep. All right, we'll leave it there. And by the way, my sources tell me one of the first moves the president will make after this election is to fire Christopher Wray at the FBI and Gina Haspel at the CIA. We'll be waiting for that news to break. It will happen after the election. Steve Bannon, it's good to see you this morning. We'll be rocking and rolling tonight, watching those ballots coming in. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve Bannon, this morning.